At 16 years old, at the absolute peak of her powers, the most gifted young figure skater in America looked at the ice that had consumed her entire life and quit. No injury, no scandal, no fall from grace. Just a girl who had broken national records, landed jumps that grown women avoided, and carried the weight of her father's $1 million investment on her blades since the age of 5, deciding with devastating clarity that enough was enough. That choice could have ended everything. In elite sport, 2 years away from competition is not a sabbatical. It is for almost everyone a permanent goodbye. The window closes, the world moves on, the records become history, and the name fades quietly from the conversation. But Alysa Liu is not almost everyone. Because the girl who walked away from figure skating in 2022 came back to win not one, but 2 Olympic gold medals in Milan, ending a 24-year drought for American women, and delivering the most stunning comeback in the sport's recent memory. And behind those medals sits a financial story just as extraordinary as the athletic one. How did a father's $1 million gamble shape and nearly destroy the very talent it was trying to build? Why did the most technically gifted American skater of her generation choose to walk away at the exact moment the world wanted her most? And how did a casual ski trip change the course of American sporting history? Before we answer any of that, we need to go back to Oakland and the quiet afternoon that started all of this. Every legend begins somewhere ordinary. For Alysa Liu, it began at the Oakland Ice Center, a rink tucked into a city more associated with hip-hop and harbor cranes than triple axels and Olympic dreams. She was 5 years old. Her father, Arthur Liu, a Chinese immigrant who had built a modest life in California's Bay Area, brought her there on a quiet afternoon, pulled by his admiration for Michelle Kwan, the figure skating icon who had once made a generation fall in love with the sport. What Arthur saw that day changed the trajectory of both their lives. The little girl did not simply skate, she glided, she balanced. She moved with an instinctive ease that coaches notice once in a decade. Her first instructor, Laura Lepetsky, saw it immediately and moved her from group lessons to individual sessions within weeks. The machine had started. You see, Arthur Liu, a man who had immigrated from China with ambition in his veins and sacrifice in his bones, made a decision that would consume the next decade of his life. He would spare nothing. In a rare and strikingly honest interview, Arthur revealed to CBS's 60 Minutes that he spent between $500,000 and $1 million on his daughter's skating career. "I spared no money, no time," he said simply. "I just sought talent, private coaching, travel across the country and around the world, ice time booked before dawn, costumes, choreographers, sports psychologists, every dollar directed toward a single objective, turning what he saw in his daughter into something the world could not ignore." By age 10, Alysa was already medaling at national competitions. By 13, she did something no American woman had ever done. At the 2019 U.S. Figure Skating Championships, she stepped onto the ice as a teenager who barely reached her competitor's shoulders and left as the youngest senior national champion in the history of the sport. She broke a record held by Tara Lipinski, a name synonymous with American skating royalty. During that performance, she landed multiple triple axels, a jump so technically demanding that most elite women skaters avoided entirely. The skating world stared at this child from Oakland and struggled to find the right word for what they were watching. Prodigy was the closest, but even that felt insufficient. She defended her national title in 2020. She dominated junior circuits. She became one of the only American women to consistently land the triple axel in competition, a technical signature that set her apart not just from her peers in the United States, but from nearly every woman competing globally. Coaches and analysts compared her potential to the great Russian skaters who had dominated the sport for a generation. Except Alysa was American, self-taught in her character, and raised not in a factory of elite sport but in Oakland. But beneath the trophies and the records and the gasps of crowd after crowd, something quieter was accumulating. Pressure, expectation, the weight of being someone's entire investment. Financial, emotional, existential. Alysa later admitted that for much of her early career, skating did not feel like hers. "It was basically his business," she said, speaking of her father. "It wasn't even really mine." That sentence carries more weight than any medal. A child who breaks records at 13 can still be a child who is exhausted. A prodigy who lands jumps that grown women avoid can still be a teenager who has never taken a spontaneous road trip, never chosen her own music, never experienced a morning without the rink waiting for her like an obligation. Alysa Liu was both the most gifted young skater of her generation and a girl who had never fully owned her own life. The rink had been her entire world since age 5. By 16, that world had become a cage, even if it was a gilded one, even if it was built with love and sacrifice and $1 million of her father's belief. The contradiction was real, and it was building quietly beneath every perfect program and every national title. It toward the moment when even the most extraordinary talent reaches its human limit. That moment was coming, and when it arrived, Alysa Liu would do what almost no one in her position had ever dared to do. She would simply walk away. In April 2022, Alysa Liu posted a message on Instagram that stunned the figure skating world into silence. She was retiring at 16 years old, coming off a 7th-place finish at the Beijing Winter Olympics and a bronze medal at the World Championships, results that for any other skater would have represented the launching pad of a career. For Alysa, they represented a finish line she had been quietly running toward for years. The announcement landed like a stone dropped into still water. Ripples spread instantly through every corner of the sport. Coaches shook their heads. Analysts debated. Fans grieved. Here was the most technically gifted young American woman in a generation. A record breaker, a triple axel specialist, a skater once spoken of in the same breath as future Olympic champions, and she was simply done. And her explanation was not dramatic. It was devastatingly honest. "I was so into skating that I really didn't do much else," she said. "Skating takes up your whole life almost. There were many times when I didn't enjoy it." Her longtime coach, Philippe de Guglielmo, offered perhaps the most telling summary of all. She felt she had kept up her side of the bargain with her father and the skating community, which was always to go to the Olympics and be the skater everyone wanted her to be. She had honored every expectation placed on her since she was 5 years old. And now, for the first time in her life, she was going to honor herself. What followed was something almost unheard of in elite athletics, a genuine, unscheduled, gloriously ordinary freedom. Alysa Liu traveled. She trekked to Everest Base Camp in Nepal, on a journey that demands endurance of a completely different kind. No judges, no scores, no performance. Just altitude, silence, and the simple human act of putting one foot in front of the other. She went on road trips with friends, driving through landscapes with no destination locked in. She enrolled at UCLA. She ate without anyone monitoring her nutrition. She woke up without a training schedule waiting like a sentence. She laughed, freely, often. For nearly 2 years, she stayed entirely away from competitive skating. And here is the detail that matters most. She did not miss it. The ice for a long time was simply the past. A chapter closed with intention, not regret. Then in early 2024, she went skiing for the first time. It was a casual trip, no agenda, but just snow and speed, and the kind of physical thrill she had not felt since her last competition. And in that sensation, the rush of movement, the clarity of controlled velocity, something stirred. "I hadn't felt that adrenaline rush since I'd quit skating," she would later explain. "It feels so similar to skiing. And so, after I skied, I was like, wait, let me get on the ice and see what it feels like." She was not planning a comeback. She was simply curious. But curiosity, in the body of a generational talent, has a way of becoming something larger. The skates went back on. The ice felt different now. Not like an obligation. Not like a contract with her father's sacrifice. Not like the weight of a nation's expectations. It felt for the first time in her memory like a choice. Her choice. Entirely and completely hers. But she called her coaches. She resumed training at Lakewood Ice in California while studying at UCLA, working with Philip de Guglielmo and Massimo Scali remotely from the Bay Area. The comeback was quiet at first. Cautious, experimental, built on joy rather than pressure. She selected her own music. She shaped her own choreography. She set her own schedule. If she felt she was training too much, she pulled back. If she wanted more ice time, she took it. No one was going to control this version of Alysa Liu. The results were immediate and remarkable. In October 2024, she returned to competition at the Budapest Trophy, her first event in over 2 years. She won. The rust was visible in some of her jumps, but the quality beneath it was unmistakable. She was back, and she was better in the ways that mattered most. She was present. She was enjoying herself. And that joy, visible in every program she skated, translated into something audiences had rarely seen from elite figure skaters. A performer who looked genuinely happy to be on the ice. The 2024-25 season brought its challenges. Inconsistency crept in at moments. Under-rotations cost her points at the Grand Prix. There were events where the technical gaps between 2 years away showed clearly. But there were also flashes. Programs so alive, so full of personality and precision, that reminded everyone watching exactly what kind of skater Alysa Liu was when everything aligned. And then came the 2025 World Championships. One of the most surprising results in modern figure skating history. Alysa Liu, the girl who had walked away from the sport at 16, who had spent 2 years hiking mountains and driving through open roads and living without a scoreboard, won the World Championship title. The comeback was complete. The narrative had turned, and the skating world, which had mourned her retirement 3 years earlier, now held its breath for what might come next. What came next was Milan, the 2026 Winter Olympics. The Mediolanum Forum. February 19th. Alysa Liu took the ice for her free program, sitting in third place after the short program, close enough to the lead to believe, far enough back to feel the danger. She had chosen to skate to Donna Summer's MacArthur Park Suite, a piece full of theatrical sweep and emotional architecture. Music that demanded not just technical execution, but full theatrical commitment. She delivered both. 7 clean triple jumps. She's a triple Lutz triple toe loop combination, executed with the kind of precision that makes judges lean forward. Her trademark Bielmann spin, a move requiring extraordinary flexibility and control, landed like a signature on a masterpiece. She earned 150.2 in the free skate. Her total score of 226.79 surged her past the entire field. Third place became first. The crowd inside the arena came apart, and Alysa Liu, as the final notes faded, flicked her ponytail, stuck the toe of her blade into the ice, and turned to take her bow, smiling. Not the performative smile of someone playing a role for cameras, the real one, the one that had been missing for years. "When I see other people smiling in the audience, I have to smile too," she said afterward. "I have no poker face." With that gold medal, she became the first American woman to win individual Olympic gold in figure skating in 24 years. She had already helped Team USA capture gold in the team event days earlier, making her a double Olympic champion at 20 years old. The girl who quit had just rewritten American sporting history. But behind the medal ceremonies, and the roaring crowds, and the record books being updated in real time, a quieter question waited, one that every champion eventually faces. What does all of this actually cost? And what does it earn? Before the Olympic flame was even extinguished in Milan, the calculators were already running. 2 gold medals, a world championship, a comeback story that had captured the attention of every major sports network on the planet. Alysa Liu had not simply won a competition. She had delivered the kind of narrative that marketing executives dream about in quiet offices. The prodigy who quit. The girl who chose herself. The champion who came back on her own terms and broke a 24-year drought for American women in the most elegant sport in the world. The business of Alysa Liu was about to become very serious business indeed. But to understand what she stands to earn, you first have to understand what was already spent. Arthur Liu did not raise a champion by accident. And he did not do it cheaply. In that now famous 60 Minutes interview, he placed the number between $500,000 and $1 million. A decade of private coaching fees, international travel, competition entry costs, custom costumes, choreographers, ice rental, and the 1,000 invisible expenses that accumulate around an elite athlete trained from the age of 5. "I spared no money, no time," he said. "I just saw talent." For context, that is not unusual in elite figure skating. The sport is brutally expensive at every level, and the families who produce Olympic champions are typically those who can absorb financial punishment over years without guarantee of return. Most of them never see that money again in any measurable form. The investment is made in love and belief, not an expectation of profit. Arthur Liu spent $1 million. His daughter, as of early 2026, he holds a net worth estimated at approximately $500,000. On the surface, that arithmetic looks painful. $1 million invested, $500,000 returned. But that number, $500,000, reflects only what had accumulated before Milan, before the double gold, before the world turned its full attention toward a 20-year-old from Oakland with a Bielmann spin and a smile that cameras cannot resist. The post-Olympic earnings picture looks entirely different. Through the United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee's Operation Gold program, Alysa qualifies for $75,000 in direct prize money, $37,500 double colv, and another $37,500 double colv for her contribution to Team USA's gold in the team event. That is not a fortune by the standards of team sports, but it is real money arriving immediately with far more to follow. The endorsement landscape is where the true transformation happens. Alysa entered Milan already holding partnerships with Samsung, Nike, and Gillette Venus, 3 of the most commercially powerful brands in global sports marketing. As part of Samsung's Team Galaxy roster, she promoted the Galaxy Z Flip Olympic Edition, appearing in campaigns that reached audiences across dozens of countries. Nike's alignment with her represented not just a sponsorship, but a statement. The world's most recognizable athletic brand, choosing a figure skater for her crossover appeal and cultural resonance. Those deals signed before the gold medals were built on potential. They will now be renegotiated on achievement. On an Olympic gold medal, particularly one that ends a 24-year drought and arrives wrapped in the most compelling comeback narrative in the sport's recent memory, multiplies an athlete's market value in ways that are difficult to quantify but impossible to ignore. Appearance fees increase, speaking engagements materialize, television opportunities expand. The ice shows and professional tours that represent the traditional post-Olympic path for figure skaters will approach her with numbers that reflect not just what she has done, but what she represents. And what she represents is rare. She is young, photogenic, bilingual in her cultural identity as a Chinese-American athlete with enormous appeal in both the United States and across Asia, one of the most commercially valuable markets in global sports. She is a student at UCLA, at which positions her as relatable to a demographic that brands spend billions trying to reach. She skates with joy rather than obligation, and that joy photographs beautifully in an era when authenticity drives engagement more than manufactured perfection. She also sells merchandise through her personal website. Stickers, t-shirts, small items that reflect the personality of an athlete who has never taken herself too seriously. It is a modest revenue stream today. In the months following Milan, it will not remain modest. The honest financial reality is this. Alysa Liu is standing at the beginning of her earning curve, not anywhere near its peak. The $500,000 that represents her current net worth is the foundation, not the structure. The structure is being built right now, and in endorsement offices and television boardrooms and tour booking agencies that are all reaching for the same phone. What her father spent $1 million building, she is about to repay many times over. Not because she owes him a financial return, but because the talent he recognized on a quiet afternoon at the Oakland Ice Center has, against every odd and through every obstacle, including her own burnout and retreat, arrived exactly where it was always capable of arriving, at the top on her own terms, with her own smile. There is a version of Alysa Liu's story that ends neatly. Girl discovers talent. Father invests everything. Girl wins Olympics. The world applauds. Credits roll. But the real story is far more honest than that, and far more important. Because the most significant moment in Alysa Liu's journey was not the night she stood on the podium in Milan with 2 gold medals catching the light. It was the quiet April afternoon in 2022, when she sat down and typed the words that told the world she was done, when she chose herself over the machine, when she looked at everything she had built, the records, the titles, the national championships, the Olympic debut, and decided that none of it was worth continuing if it could not be done on her own terms. That decision cost her nothing financially in the short term, because elite figure skaters do not earn NBA salaries, but it could have cost her everything in the long term. 2 years away from competition at the highest level is not a sabbatical in most sports. It is for most athletes a permanent goodbye. The window closes, the body changes, the momentum dissolves. Alysa walked away anyway, and in doing so she discovered something that no training schedule or coaching manual could have taught her. That talent, when it belongs to the person carrying it, truly belongs to them. Chosen freely, practiced with joy, does not diminish during rest. It deepens, it matures, it waits. The Alysa Liu, who won gold in Milan, was not the same skater who finished 7th in Beijing at 16. She was better. Not just technically, though the scores confirmed that too. And she was better in the way that matters most in performance. She was present. She was joyful. She was free. And freedom, it turns out, is the one ingredient that talent alone cannot manufacture. Her father spent $1 million. The sport consumed her childhood. The pressure shaped and scarred and ultimately nearly extinguished the very gift it was trying to cultivate. And yet here she stands, 20 years old, double Olympic champion, world champion, the face of American figure skating for a generation to come. With an earning curve that is only beginning to climb, the expensive life of Alysa Liu was not built in the usual way. It was not assembled through relentless sacrifice and ironclad discipline and the grinding machinery of professional sport. It was built, dismantled, walked away from, and then rebuilt, this time by the only architect who ever truly mattered, the girl herself. And perhaps that is the lesson that outlasts every medal, every endorsement deal, every record that carries her name, that the most expensive thing in any life is not what it costs to reach the top. It is what it costs to find out who you are when you get there, and whether the person standing on the podium is someone you actually recognize. Alysa Liu looked in the mirror after Milan and smiled. Not for the cameras, not for the brands, not for the father who spent $1 million believing in her before she believed in herself. Just because she was happy. Genuinely, freely, expensively happy. And that, more than the gold, more than the net worth, and more than the 24-year drought finally ended, is the only prize that was ever truly worth chasing. If this story moved you, subscribe for more untold chapters of athletes who paid the highest price for the rarest reward, and drop a comment below. Which part of Alysa's journey hit you hardest? The girl who quit, or the champion who came back?